Okay, guys, in getting into the household conversions that we did the other day in class, a couple things that I want you guys to remember. I've got two videos for this. There was two ways that we could approach these types of questions. When we see questions, perhaps if I have something that says, let's say, 8 teaspoons, and I want to know what that is in milliliters. When I have a question like this, pay attention to the units. I'm looking here, I've got teaspoons to milliliters. That's the conversion I'm trying to get to, teaspoons to milliliters. When we think about our knowns, when I look at my chart that has all the different equivalents on it, that particular chart lets me know that if I'm looking, again, I'm looking for the one that just says teaspoons and milliliters, or milliliters and teaspoons, doesn't matter which order it comes in. I do find this known on my chart. It says that 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters. So that being said, that means that if it says 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters, that means that 5 milliliters will fit in one of those spoons, in one of my teaspoons. So in the question that we're looking at here, the question that says that I have 8 teaspoons, and I want to know what that is in milliliters, because I'm going from teaspoons to milliliters, this question means that I'm going from a larger unit. This is considered larger because, again, 1 teaspoon will hold 5 whole milliliters, so therefore teaspoons must be pretty big. And I'm going to the smaller unit in question here. So we remember from class that anytime I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, I simply just need to multiply. And what do we multiply? I'm taking the number from my question, the 8 teaspoons, and I'm multiplying it by the number of my known. Obviously not the 1, because that would just give me 8. I'm multiplying it by the number in my known, which is 5. 8 times 5 gives me 40, and so that is my answer. As long as you remember, larger to smaller means we multiply. That's what I multiply by. Whereas if I had the opposite, let's say I had the entire, that exact question, but I had the opposite of that question. So meaning, let's say I have, let's say 50 milliliters, and I want to know what that is in teaspoons. So in this question, I'm actually using the same known because in my equivalence chart, the only thing that has just teaspoons and milliliters in that equivalent, in those two matching units, is the one that says that 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters. In this particular question, it's asking me to convert from milliliters to teaspoons. So because of that, again, it's the opposite of the previous question. We know that milliliters, they must be smaller than teaspoons because, again, in my equivalent, it says that 5 of them fit in 1 teaspoon. So, again, they must be pretty small if 5 of them will fit into 1 teaspoon. So, milliliters are my smaller unit in this particular known here. So, because I'm going, in this case, from a smaller unit to a larger unit, we remember smaller to larger always means to divide. And again, what do we divide? I divide the number of that's in my question, so the 50 milliliters, and I divide it by the number in my known, which is the 5. So in this case, I'm taking 50 divided by 5, which gives me the answer of 10. So always remember, as long as you remember those two rules, that larger to smaller, we know to multiply. So that means multiply. Whereas the opposite, if I said smaller to larger, we always need to remember that that means to divide. There was another method to, for this particular setup, and I'm going to send you that in a separate video. Let's just do a couple more questions just to make sure we feel pretty comfortable with that. Let's say that I have, 4 cups, and I want to know what that is in ounces. Okay, so in this case, I'm looking for my known, my equivalent on that chart that says what is the one that says just cups and ounces, or ounces and cups. Again, it doesn't matter what order that happens to come in. I'm just looking for the one that uses the 2 units in question here. And I do find in my equivalence chart that if I have 1 cup, that's the same thing as 8 ounces. So again, in all of your equivalents, the one that's the 1 is your larger unit because the other one again, they must be pretty small in this case because 8 of them, 8 ounces, will fit into 1 cup. So if my question is asking me to go from cups to ounces, therefore I'm going from the larger unit to the smaller unit, and larger to smaller always means we multiply. So I'm going to take the 4 and multiply it by the 8. 4 times 8 gives me 32. And that is my answer. All right, just to make sure, let's do one more. Let's say we have, let's say 1,000 milliliters. And I want to know what that is in pints. So milliliters and pints. I'm looking for a known that says pints and milliliters, milliliters and pints. When I look for, those two units, I do find that 1 pint is the same thing as 480 milliliters. So in this question, again, my 1 pint, if in my equivalent, it's the 1, so therefore pints is a larger unit out of these 2 units. So in my question, I'm going from my smaller unit to my larger unit. And smaller to larger, we know we divide. So I take 1,000 and divide it by 480, which gives me 2.083333 repeating. So again, however you guys round that is completely up to you. All these would be correct answers if you put 2.08, 2.083, if you rounded it to 2.1. Those are all excellent answers, and any one of those would work on that test. So anytime you get a decimal that's very long, how you guys round, remember, is completely up to you in that particular scenario. Okay, guys, I hope that helps. As long as you remember, larger to smaller, multiply, smaller to larger, we divide. I'll also attach to this email, I'll send another video going over the proportion method if you liked the setup, and hopefully those who like that method, I hope that helps with that. If you guys have any questions, you guys know you can call me anytime or email me anytime. Have a great weekend.